Welcome back to the Conversations with Cacao podcast. Today, we are diving deep into the world of cacao with a special guest, Mathieu of Cacao Insights. Originally a textile engineer, Mathieu's path took an unexpected turn when he discovered the depth and potency of cacao. What started as a fascination with craft chocolate led him to co-found Cacao Insights in 2021. A project dedicated to uncovering the rich diversity of cacao through education, experience, and deep connection. Now based in southwest France, Mathieu is working to shift the narrative around cacao from commodity to culture, bringing together farmers, makers, and enthusiasts to honor the complexity and its power. I am so excited to explore his journey and insights today. Let's welcome Mathieu. Welcome to the Conversations with Cacao podcast. I am here with Mathieu from Cacao Insights, and we are just going to drop in together for a beautiful meditation of centering, allowing ourselves to move from whatever state that we're in right now and just become aware of where we are. Becoming aware of our body, becoming aware of our breath, becoming aware of the sounds that are around us, and just allowing ourselves to consciously begin to slow down, even just a little bit. Calling our mind back into our bodies. Maybe we have thoughts about the future or the past or different potentials. And just allowing our minds to align in this moment. Calling our presence back into our body at this time. Maybe you rub your hands together to really feel that connection to your body, to your presence. Taking a deep breath in and allowing your breath to begin to fill your body with more softness, more ease, more relaxation. And from this space, opening our feet up, opening and imagining that we have these beautiful roots flowing out of our feet, connecting in and traveling all the way down into the heart of the earth. And just allowing this connection to be there. Even if you don't necessarily feel a strong connection, just imagining that your roots are connected all the way down to the heart of the earth. And then imagining that the heart of the earth has this beautiful, nourishing energy that begins to flow up your roots, helping you to ground, helping you to be present, helping you to feel nourished and supported. And just allowing all of this energy to flow all the way up into the feet, into the legs, into the knees and the hips, all the way up into your stomach and inner organs, and flowing up into the heart. And just allowing this connection to the earth to feel good, to feel fluid, to feel like we can step on our path with confidence, that we can be present here with ease. And then gently elongating the spine, reaching the crown of the head up towards the heart of the sky, towards the heart of the cosmos, the stars, the moon, the sun, the wisdom that comes from above. As we call in more space, new ideas, inviting in a new perspective and vantage point, and allowing this energy to begin to flow down down into your crown, into your brain, flowing into your eyes, your ears, all the way through the throat, into our shoulders and arms and hands, and flowing this energy all the way down into the heart space. And feeling the energy of the earth and the energy of the sky holding us in this moment. And for maybe just one moment, feeling that interconnection, that we are a part of something bigger, that we are held all around us in every moment. And breathing into the spaciousness, breathing in more calm, breathing in more gentleness, and exhaling with softness. And now just envisioning that there's this big bubble, and all of the listeners listening right now, we're all in this bubble together. And just sending love to all of the listeners who are listening right now. And then imagining all of the listeners who have listened to this in the past and beaming them love, beaming them gratitude, and imagining all of the listeners that will listen to this in the future and beaming them love and gratitude. And allowing that love and gratitude to come back to you as well, because you are a part of this co-creation. You are a part of this moment in time. And you are a part of the interconnection of this planetary wisdom here at this time. Taking a few more breaths in to really receive. And finding ourselves more centered, more open as we begin to flow. Allowing the intention of the space to really speak what needs to be heard, what needs to be shared, to the highest good always, with gentleness and love, and kindness and compassion. And today we have the honor of having Mathieu share a blessing and a gratitude for the cacao. So I will pass the mic over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this beautiful introduction. So if you're listening and you prepared yourself a cup of cacao just like we did, maybe it's time for you to grab it and feel the warmth of your cup between your hands. I like to dedicate this moment when I grab my cup to the whole journey that the cacao that we're about to drink has been through. So first I like to imagine the environment in which the cacao tree has grown. So you can imagine like a lush jungle, very dense, with very tall trees providing shade for the cacao tree. You can imagine the trunk and the bases of the biggest branches covered with big cacao pods, very ripe and ready to be harvested. And so you can think of the farmers who tend for this tree and all the other trees on his or her farm. You can basically see him just grab his machete and, harvest the pod. And once all the pods are harvested, they are cut open and the seeds are extracted from the pod. they're going to be first fermented and then dried, and all the people involved in this process are making it possible for us to have this cup in our hands right now. Beans are going to be roasted and then ground into a paste. And then this paste is probably going to travel a little bit to us, towards us. And we turn it into this beautiful drink that connects us here today. So we can take a moment to be grateful for all of these people that make it possible, and for the environment and for nature to gift us with this beautiful drink. So enjoy your first sip if you want to.
Thank you for that beautiful journey. I really, really love that. And the visuals of just being in the jungle and the whole process of what it takes for this
Yeah, right.
cacao to be in the cup.
Yeah, it takes a lot of effort and a lot of people. And so I always like to remind myself that it's not a given, it's a privilege to have access to it. And whichever cacao I'm drinking, I try to imagine a different kind of environments, whether it's a different country or different farm. I think it's just a beautiful way to connect, among others.
And it brings that connection. I feel like it's that conscious awareness of really where is our food coming from, and having an understanding of that whole journey. And you have now founded this beautiful business around Cacao Insights. The name of it, I love the insight into what cacao actually is and
Yes.
where it comes from and its profile and the dynamic nature of cacao. I would love for you to share a little bit about yourself so our listeners know a little bit more about you, and however you just want to flow into what feels right.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm 29 years old. I'm French. Um, I trained as a textile engineer, and I founded Cacao Insight at first with my partner. And it used to be really from a place of like kind of a passion project. And so if I can tell a little bit about the story of how it came to be, we used to live in the Netherlands like 3 or 4 years ago, something like that. And so there we were really fond of fine chocolate and specialty chocolate at the time. And it happened to there's this big fine chocolate fair that is happening in Amsterdam. And so my girlfriend, she surprised me with tickets for this fair for my birthday, as a present. And so we went there, and I was just like a kid in Disneyland. So it was amazing. It's just a big gathering of all these people trying to also in their own way to give cacao, let's say, to put it back in the forefront, and put the spotlight on what can be done with cacao with the right amount of time and care. And so we were really into the world of craft chocolate, and we didn't know anything about like pure cacao or traditional drinks or ceremonial cacao or however you want to call it, right? And so we entered this big fair like very excited about what is going to happen. And so it's a fair, so the environment is like it's really crowded, it's really noisy, and visually what you see, I mean, lots of booths and lots of people here, and it's all it's all like plastic and steel, and there's this one booth in the middle of the fair that stands out, like we can see like there's a comfy space, rugs, pillows, and like wooden chairs, and it just stands out because it's the only space that looks comfortable and that drags you towards it. And so we're like, okay, let's go there first. And so we see this couple. They are kind of, yeah, they're just like pouring like hot chocolate drink. At least that's what we thought. And we're like, whoa, that might be the greatest hot chocolate that we are going to have. So we have to try that. So we do a first tour of the fair, and then at some point we're like, okay, that might be the moment where we have this chocolate thing. Otherwise, it's gonna be too much. So we go there and we have a little word with this couple, and uh, they they don't tell us much actually. They just tell us it's a cacao drink, and so we're like, okay, let's try this. So they pour us 2 cups, and we go and sit down in this comfy space that I described. And before we know it, well, at first we are very surprised, but what we are tasting, because obviously like it's not sweet, it's really like a raw taste and really different from what we were expecting, but we are enjoying it, and we are just immersed in this bubble, but we are still in this, like very noisy and like crowded fair. And we question ourselves, like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? What was in the drink? And so we have to go to the guys and ask them. And so we ask them, and they say, well, there was nothing else than cacao, but the way it was produced and transformed, it was uh, it was done in a way that you have access to what it has to offer. And so that is when we got to know the real thing, right? So yeah. So I discovered cacao that way. And so Cacao Insights came a couple of years later, because after this moment we became friends with the couple that actually poured us this cup. So uh, this is Eric and Leonie. So they are the founders of a cacao brand based in Amsterdam, which is called Pure Cacao. And they taught us like everything we knew at the time about cacao. And like working with them was like a kind of a privilege, because we were helping them on the like communication side and marketing side. But obviously they were also introducing to all the insights that you have behind cacao, because they were doing the import themselves, and the particularity of how they do their thing is that they have like 3 different cacaos coming from 3 different countries, but they are all single farms, and they do the sourcing themselves. They don't go through uh, uh, another like a middleman or a sourcer. They do they go in the country, and they find the right partner. So we got to have this very special perspective from them. And so after a while, we got accustomed to their cacaos, and we understood that uh, they obviously have like different taste and feel, but they also have like very different effects and different profiles. And at some point, it was very clear to us that we felt sometimes like drawn by one and kind of pushed back by the other, and this would change depending on our context, depending on our feeling, depending on the season, whatever, we were still exploring. And at some point it just sparked the question, like, is it something that happens with like every cacao, or is this like something special because they are doing the thing in a special way? And so this is how Cacao Insights is born, and this was like our primary mission, I would say. It was to find an answer to this question.
Yeah. And are you closer?
Definitely.
Good answer.
Yes, I am. Yes. Yeah. We are closer because we had the chance to experiment with like uh dozens of different cacaos coming from different brands, and therefore connecting with the people behind the brands and getting to know of different kind of making processes, why they would go for one option over the other, and how they would roast it and how they would ferment it. And so we don't have like precise answer in like which kind of step is going to have this kind of impact in the end product. But what is for sure is that every cacao is different, and you can definitely get to know a cacao like you would get to know, I don't know, like a person. Basically, it's
Yeah.
like it's this it has this special thing, So it's a beautiful exploration, and not only for cacao, by the way, it's also like how you approach food and drinks and what you intake in general, I would say.
Yeah. I I can imagine that the depth that and the doors that that opened for how, because you're talking really about, I know you start at the farm too and seeing how what plants affect the trees, and then each step of the process it's like pulling back another layer and
Yeah,
realizing, wow, there's a whole new world here to
yeah,
explore as well. And how deep you can go down those rabbit holes, I could only imagine.
exactly. Well, it's too deep to be honest, but
Never ending.
yeah,
Yeah. So it sounds like you've had a lot of chocolate and cacao.
yes, 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 I did.
I'm curious about where, because I'm curious about all of it. The best place to start. What part fascinates you the most, or what is the part that really has stood out to you in terms of like drinking and profiling different cacaos? Is it like the effect, the flavor? What part really stands out to you in that
Hmm.
the discerning process?
I think what fascinates me the most is the overall complexity, and how just a little change in the whole process can imply a significant difference in the end. So it can go as fine as if you just ferment the cacao for half a day, uh, like for half a day more than the previous harvest, or if you raise the roasting temperature like a couple of degrees more than the previous batch that you did, you end up with something that is gonna look familiar, but it's gonna feel different. And so trying to understand how all these parameters are linked together, this is what really fascinates me, because like there is this kind of magic that no matter how much control you want to have in the process, you're always going to end up being surprised, because you cannot control everything, right? It's all like uh, it's natural. There are lots of natural processes involved, like uh, how the weather is impacting the harvest, and how climate change is impacting it, and how like the fermentation is going, whether the weather is good or not, like how the farmers manage to keep the temperatures right, how the roasting is going to be performed. Like you cannot have much control over it. But the thing is, the smallest detail you're going to change into this whole process, I cannot stop being surprised of how big the impact is. So yeah, that would be my answer. That's what fascinates me the most, really. So yeah, again, it's a infinite depth.
Just taking that in, and my brain likes to like work in metaphors or like what is it like, and I think you stated it really beautifully where it's getting to know someone, getting to know a person or a being, where you may appear in a certain way, but there's so much complexity and depth in a human. And I think that goes back to also the spiritual nature of cacao and how it is used relating
Definitely.
to spirit as well,
Yeah.
because it is so multifaceted.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Do you use it for spiritual practices for you as well?
I do use it for my own spiritual practice, and it's let's go on with this metaphor because it just fits very well the subject, and it's an evolving relationship that I have with cacao, because at the really beginning, it was when I discovered it, it was something so new and so precious that I would only allow myself to have it for a special time, and build special space and a moment for it. And basically, at the beginning, it was the way I used it, if I can say that, is I used to drink it with my partner, and this would be a moment in a space where it would be only about us. So it would be having this cacao and having this space for, deep conversation. And it was a way to connect that was just pure, you know. And so we we evolved, and our relationship evolved as well, thanks to cacao. And so then, starting working with our friends like Eric and Leonie, we had access to more and more, and our relationship evolved because yeah, we got to know one cacao, then the second, then they introduced the third one, and then it was more of like uh we had cacao more often, and maybe more often on our own as well. And it was about getting to know these different cacao. And now I feel like, especially those three, but also other cacaos that I know very well, they are like just like daily partners. Like right now, I have cacao basically every day, and it's one of the first thing that I start my day with, and it's just like a beautiful support for whatever I want to combine it with, whether it is like a small meditation, or maybe journaling, or maybe just getting into my workflow. It's a proper support. So
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that too.
yeah,
My partner is used to me like, all right, I got to start working. I need to make my cup to
yes, right. Otherwise, you
get
can't.
into workflow.
Like, is this something you also experienced, like having this kind of evolving relationship with cacao, or
Yeah,
how is it for you?
definitely. I had a similar journey with that as well. And my first time tasting cacao was actually in a full moon fire ceremony. And the first sip was just
Yeah,
locked in. Like, I felt like multi-dimensional remembrance. And I was like, I need to know what this is,
yeah,
what's in this cup,
yes, right.
everything about it. And when I first started my journey, I ordered cacao and I would sit with it every day. But I'd take the time. I was working all the time. Any 15 minutes, I was just like, all right, I have 15 minutes, let's sit. And I really want to listen. It was a really deep conversation also with myself and with cacao. That's where it started. What can I hear? What can I hear? I think that's really what it was. What can I
Yeah,
taste? What can I feel? Opening up to more sensation and more awareness in my body and what's going on in my mind. So I would really take that time for me to connect in that way. So it's a little bit different than your journey. But I was just fascinated by the different flavors of cacao. And that's kind of how this initially started too, because I was like, all right, well, what other cacaos are there? I'm like, this one feels so different. This energy, the flavor is so different. And then the pandemic happened, and I was like, if the world's ending, I'm going down with a lot of cacao. So I ordered from a whole bunch of companies, and I had a whole stockpile. So I was really ready to taste this cacao, and had a lot of experience with the different energies of the different
yeah.
cacao brands here. And then people were like, what cacao should I get? I'm like, well, if you want this
It
experience, get
depends.
this.
Yeah, it's not.
So that's kind of how this started here. And it sounds like a similar journey. And I'm so curious about your relationship to different cacaos feeling differently. Some people, I'm not sure if it's a sensitivity, but some people don't necessarily feel a big difference between cacaos, and then some you just like feel massive difference. And
Mhm.
I'm not sure if that's something you could talk about or share your own experience with.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, maybe I start um, with my experience in seeing how people approach the differences, and then I could talk about myself.
Yeah.
But so because of the project, or thanks to the project, I should say, uh, like we were given lots of opportunities to share this kind of cacao with people who never heard of it before. And so we obviously did it with like our close ones and like friends and family, but also in different kind of settings. So we're not facilitators, and so we don't hold ceremonies. But for instance, we would find ways to share cacao in a meaningful way, uh, such as like holding a cacao bar in like an event that was close to our hut, you know. So for instance, we went to a like a crafters market, you know, and so we were out there sharing cacaos and preparing cups to people who weren't coming to this specific event to taste cacao, you know. So it was really like this out of the blue kind of discovery, and it's I guess it's also our way to recreate our own experience, because as I told you, when we went into that fair, we weren't expecting that either. And so same, people come, they expect like a hot chocolate. And so we talk to them about the differences in taste and what actually is cacao and how is it different from cacao powder and hot chocolate, etc. And then we go through these different kind of profiles, aromatic profiles. And at the end, we let them know that they also have some kind of effects and that every cacao has a different kind of effect. And we do a little introduction, but we don't go into too much detail because we don't want to uh, cut the experience from the person who is going to drink it, you know, because I might tell you that this cacao is going to make you feel more grounded and relaxed, and you're going to drink it and you're going to feel something different. So we have kind of subjective guidelines, but you know, they are always really open. And so just as you said, sometimes so the people we shared with, some couldn't even feel the effect. Some could really relate to what we told them and what we wrote on our little sheets, you know. And but most of them could feel that this was something special. Let's keep it simple. And the I think the beauty of it is when you see someone, uh sometimes like it just clicks, you know, it just clicks, and they understand, like as you said, like they have their first sip or their first cup, and they understand that there is something to go for, and so they come back and they come back again, and then they want to order, and they have one and two and three, and they understand this depth and this complexity. And so I guess I'm not sure if it's about sensitivity or if it's about like how, I mean, our constitutions, they're all different, you know, our body just reactive in a different way. um it might be about the dose as well, or it might be about the kind of presence that you can allow when having your cup, you know, because I think it's a really, really important uh, part of the journey, because the effect of cacao is so gentle that it's so easy to just like go through it and say, well, okay, it's just regular warm beverage, nothing special, you know. But if you're able to allow the presence that is needed, then you are able to access the beauty of it. This is my
Yeah.
experience with people, like, so.
I think that's really beautiful and a really beautiful observation too. The amount of present that you can meet with the cup or with cacao. How forthcoming, how open are we to even beginning and engaging in that
Yeah.
relationship?
Definitely. Well, my partner, she has this image of like this kind of plant medicine, cacao. It opens the door and it lets you choose if you want to go through it or not. I mean, it's your decision, you know. It's just gentle. Other plant medicines, they are a little bit more, you know.
Kick you through the door.
Exactly. Sometimes.
I love that metaphor. Very, very beautiful. And it's
Yeah.
also something so relatable because everybody knows chocolate that
Yeah, right.
is fills and saturates our world, and there's such a disconnect to actually where does this bar of chocolate come from? What is its journey? I'm not sure if you want to share a little bit about your own personal journey with the effects of the different cacao for you.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Hmm. Where should I start? What I noticed lately, since I told you my relationship has evolved a lot, and now it's kind of a daily partner, and so I I don't feel accustomed to the effect, meaning that I can still feel like a really deep or intense presence when I drink my cup, but depending it's kind of weird actually. Like depending on the context that I choose that I want to be in, it feels like the cacao will respond in the corresponding way. I also like make the move of choosing the right cacao that would fit the right context. So I guess this is how I should approach it. For now, what I do is I can choose the right cacao for the context that I am in and how I feel. And I cannot really explain how it goes because I think now it's really a feeling, you know, or intuitive. But yes, I can definitely feel that the seasons have an impact on the kind of taste that I want to have. Or like for instance, right now we're still in the summer, so I like to have this very fruity and tangy cacao. And I know that when autumn kicks and the winter is full on, I like to have this very comforting, you know, chocolatey cacao. And I do feel like the the aromatic profiles are kind of linked to the effects that they will imply, you know, because even with different kind of foods that don't necessarily have a physiological effects, depending on what you taste, you feel a certain way. And so I feel this is emphasized with cacao because it does have this array of chemicals that is going to interact with your body. And there is also this very simple thing that taste is putting you in a certain mood or giving you a certain feel. So this is how I approach it now. Like I'm just listening to myself and see where I want to go, what I want to do, and it allows me to choose which cacao and which kind of effect that I want to have.
That's really interesting. I'm really curious about the relationship to the flavor profile and the effect because you said there are correlating aspects in that. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I should first say that this is very subjective and this is like uh, part of our own research, which is really empirical, you know, like trying to understand how we react to a food and specifically to cacao. Like it's not something that you can actually measure, I guess. But this is something that we can actually share, and maybe it resonates with you or with someone else. But yeah, so for instance, I found that from all the cacao that I tasted, the ones that have this uh, aromatic profile that is more on the intense side, so it would be like roasted notes or kind of full-bodied, chocolatey, or nutty aromas, you know, the one that will really give you this comforting feeling. They are also the one that are going to have like a relaxing and grounding and yes, very, very intense effect that is pushing me to go inwards in some kind of depth. Whereas when I have the opposite in taste, like a fruity or tangy cacao that has this really this kick when you drink it that is awaking all your taste buds. This one is really energizing me and it pushes me towards something that I want to accomplish, whether it is getting into a workflow or doing exercise or dancing, whatever. This is one thing that I observed with all the cacao that I tasted, basically. I have so far never had fruity and tangy cacao that would actually take me in on a real depth. So is it placebo? Is it somehow correlated? Let's see. This is part of the thing that I want to work to have more insight about and the kind of research that I would like to dive into. So yeah, let's see how it evolves.
I had an aha moment. I co-led a retreat in Costa Rica, and we had the privilege of connecting with the Bribri tribe. They have a deep connection to cacao there as well. They shared that when they use cacao, there are 4 different types of strains that they have growing near them locally. They only use one strain for one event. So they have one cacao that is only used for ceremony and weddings, funerals, healing ceremonies. And then they have one cacao that is for social events, just
All
like
right.
every night, party. They have a cacao that is used for daily use, and a 4th one that I'm blanking on right now. I was like, oh, it's really interesting that you have your cacaos, and it's like, okay, this one's for that. But I never really thought much more into it of like, oh, wait, there must be actually an effect, a flavor, and a spirit of this specific strain of cacao that is stimulating more or creating a more beneficial atmosphere to go into deeper ceremony.
Exactly.
Yeah. Whoa. That's crazy.
It
That's
is,
like,
right?
that's mind blowing.
Yes, it is.
And if we think about it, so it helps me understand and process the world in metaphors, but if we think about each of these strains of cacao as people and friends, one is like the shaman or the priestess guiding you deeper into that spiritual realm. One
Yeah,
is like the party friend that's like, come on, like let's
exactly.
have a good time and
Yeah,
dance.
yeah,
I'll show
yeah.
you a good time. The
Yeah.
other one's like, all right, let's sit and go inward and sit with me. Thank you for bringing this awareness into my
Well,
life.
you're welcome. You're welcome. I mean, I'm also glad to know that this is something that you share and that you were able to actually understand it from an original point of view. And by that I mean, if it's coming from the Bravery tribe, it means that this is a kind of knowledge that has been passed on for generations at least. And so if they were able to understand these specificities about cacao, it's important for me to know, and I can't wait to know more about it, but it's important for me to know that this is something that people who are at the origin of these traditions are actually feeling somehow of the same way that we are, and that the work that we are doing is kind of respectful from this point of view. I'm glad to know about it, really.
That's a really beautiful way of putting it, that the respect in that, because it's really about understanding. For me in my practice is you want to understand, and like in a relationship, you want to understand where the person's coming from and how to
Yeah.
treat them best. And it kind of brings in my teenage years, did a lot of other plant medicines as well, and salvia was really big at that time.
All right.
And people would smoke salvia and have these really weird trips and everything. And doing deeper research into ethnobotany, and
Yeah.
I found out that salvia is actually a plant that loves to be wet and moist and dark. So
Okay.
the fact that people were smoking it, the indigenous people working with this plant were like, of course you're having weird trips
Yeah.
because it doesn't like to be smoked and burned. It doesn't like to be dried. It wants to be wet. It's something that should be used when you're actually physically kneeling at the altar, touching the people next to you to ground you into this realm, and chewed. because that's the way that this plant likes to be nurtured. So by actually taking it and smoking it, it's a disrespect to the plant because
Yes.
that's not how she wants to be treated. How do we even contemplate and begin to understand a deeper relationship with this plant? And that it does go into the nuance of like, well, this strain is used for this. And how do
Yes.
we elevate that?
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of awareness that still needs to be brought. I hope I can be just a little part of it, you know?
Do you call yourselves cacao sommeliers? And I love that
Yes.
because sommelier, for those who don't know, is for the wine tasting. It's the nuance of tasting and discerning different flavor notes and profiles within wine,
Yeah.
and attributing it to cacao is really fun, I think, and really
Yeah,
cool.
right.
And if you could give our listeners and me some language around when we're talking about profiling a cacao, what does that actually mean? And some language that we can begin to play with in our own lives.
Yeah, definitely. Just to start off, the word sommelier, I think it beautifully serves the purpose because first it's kind of well known. It's related to wine, which is really famous compared to the kind of cacao that we're talking about. And there is this distinction in the sommelier thing that this is the person that knows how it tastes and the criterias that are at the origin of this taste, you know. But it is very different from the person that has made the wine, you know. And so this is also the kind of distinction that we like because we we are not a brand and we obviously don't have a cacao farm and we're not involved into transformation, and we really wanted to, you know, be clear about our standpoint. And so we just felt that sommelier was just the the right one, you know. And so where does profiling start? I guess it starts from trying to collect as much information as you can around how your cacao is made and where it comes from. So where it comes from, uh, so if you have information that is like very local and really about the farm and the kind of environment that it is grown in, you would call that a terroir. So basically, a terroir is is at a very local scale what the soil is composed of, what are the surrounding trees and crops, uh, which altitude is located the farm, you know. So these are the kind of elements that make a terroir. And so you can have a very different terroir just a few kilometers or a few miles away, right? And so it means that, for instance, if you're on a hill that is exposed uh, like full south, and obviously the sun is like on the tree the most part of the day, well, they will develop different organoleptic properties and different kind of aromas because the sugars and the proteins, they will develop differently than from trees that are exposed towards the other side of the hill and that don't see the sun as much as the others do, and so the average temperature is different. So I'm getting very specific here, but no need for that. But having a sense of the terroir and uh, what are the what is the environment where the tree grows is the first step. Um, then comes like the making process. So it starts from the harvest, the post-harvest processes, which are fermentation and drying. Then it goes into roasting and grinding the beans into the paste. So all this making process, every time I mean, at every step of the process, you will have different ways of doing things, and these different ways will have different impact on the cacao that you are going to drink. So trying to find out these informations is, to me, really important in order to know what you're gonna end up with, you know, because we now know that the more you process cacao and or the more harsh your process is, the less active compounds you are going to be able to preserve, and so it will definitely have an impact in your cup.
What constitutes like a harsh process?
If I think about the grinding step,
Mm-hmm.
so if you ground cacao, like traditionally cacao used to be ground on a metate, right? It used to be because there were different ways, but the one of the common ones that is often referred to is stone grinding on a metate. Now, how people or our farms do it when they need to make it for a bigger quantity, they might use uh, a stone mill, like a stone grinder, but there are many different kinds of mills, and some are used, for instance, in the chocolate industry, and some of them are okay, and some of them they will really ground cacao into like tiny sized particles, and the fact of grinding the particles uh, so small, it's gonna basically break down the compounds, for instance. So the smaller you go in size, maybe from a chocolate maker point of view, the better the texture will be. But from our point of view, the less active compound you are going to be able to preserve. And so often this is linked also to friction heat, because the harder you go on your beans, the more friction heat you are going to imply in the process. And basically friction heat can rise to some temperatures that are damaging for the compounds as well. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying like harsh processes.
I know that like some cacao can go to, is it like 20 microns?
Microns, yeah.
And is it because the compounds are actually larger than that? So it's like the compounds are being broken down. And what compounds aren't you actually referring to when you speak about that?
Well, basically all the active compounds that are inside a cacao bean. This was part of one of our experiments where we tried this cacao that comes from Maya Mountain in Belize. This is like a very well-known cooperative in the fine cacao industry and also in the ceremonial cacao niche.
I'm
And
drinking that right now, but I made
really,
it myself.
well,
I have the beans and I roast them and peel them myself and make it.
wow, that's amazing.
So
That's
that's
amazing.
wild.
Like you actually buy the beans from them and you
I
make
do.
your own cacao out of it. Wow, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. I still have to do that myself, so you can
Yeah, I'm
teach me
learning.
at
I'm a
some point.
noob, but it's fun.
Oh yeah, I bet. I mean, I would love to do that. Well, so that's perfect. So we did that with other farms as well, but this one is really special. It's they have like a beautiful cacao. It is commonly used in the craft chocolate industry, and it's also kind of commonly used in the ceremonial cacao niche. So we had access to cacao paste or cacao mass that was processed by a chocolate maker. We had access to ceremonial cacao from one brand that would use semi-industrial processes, and we had access to this cacao from another brand that would use more artisanal processes. And so we could definitely feel that using the one that was made by the chocolate maker, it was uh, it was less intense and it has less potency, and the effects couldn't last. And when we went from this one to the opposite, we could feel like a really sustained effect and a real depth. And I'm talking obviously like we used the same amount of cacao and tried to recreate the same setup. So we tried our best to make the conditions kind of objective. And I think there is a real difference that should be addressed in the way you process it, basically, because it's also important that brands that are now trying to facilitate access to cacao for everybody, basically, are taking that into account so that they can make better informed decisions when it comes to, okay, what kind of equipment am I going to either fund for the cooperative or the farm to transform it, or either invest in myself so that I can transform it in a respectful way. This is also like a difference that should be addressed when some craft chocolate makers might say, well, when you use pure cacao or ceremonial cacao, it's basically just using cacao mass that we are preparing. Well, it's not that simple. Often we refer to this concept of intention that is not the same, when it's produced. And this is one thing, and it's definitely here. And there's this other thing, that the care that is taken in the process is not the same. I'm not saying that they're not taking care of the product, but they are taking care of it for a different purpose, and they are doing it in a different way. I think this is something that needs to be talked about and kind of understood more broadly.
What comes to mind as you say that is treating it more as a commodity versus a medicine. Have you also explored the aspect, and this is a super subjective, I don't know how much empirical data you can actually reap from
Fight on.
that, but the intention of the farms and the farmers, have you been able to assess or feel differences in that regard from chocolate to artisanal and ceremonial?
Yes, this is really subjective.
Yeah.
This is really subjective. The only thing that comes to mind is that the cacaos that are the closest to my heart are the ones where I can feel the more direct connection from my cup to the people who actually made it. But here at this point in time, I don't have enough information or even enough experience to try and formulate something that is other than that. This is something to dive into for sure.
I am wanting to start a research fund for you guys, creating a
I would like
lab.
to.
That would be so
I
cool.
would love to.
Because it's so fascinating, and there are certain things that science can actually prove now, especially going back to the studies that Dr. Emoto has done on water and the are you familiar with that?
I think so, yeah. I'm not
Where you know
familiar with
you
the name of the doctor, but I think I know what you're referring to, but go ahead.
he took water and blessed it, gave it love to one, and
Yes,
said these negative words to the other. And then looking
yes.
at the crystalline forms that the water actually makes, when you give it gratitude, it creates these beautiful symmetrical snowflake crystals.
Uh-huh.
And when you say like I hate you or these negative things to it, it actually distorts and becomes this really
Like chaotic shapes.
chaotic shapes. And in the years to come, when you guys have a whole research center,
Yeah, right.
planting that seed, yes. If anybody
It's
wants to
part of
help
the
fund
vision,
it.
I have to say.
Yeah. But to actually be able to look at the water molecules from the same farms,
Mm.
ones that have been blessed and ones that are not, or even just the energy of it, the energy of prayer, because I know there have been studies conducted on how prayer actually affects the field around living things. So that'd be cool to know more
Definitely,
about.
definitely. I mean, asking for my personal opinion, I would say that it has an impact. Can we actually assess it at the moment? No, but it's definitely something to look into. What you're referring to, like the kind of research center or research fund, is for sure it's part of our vision, because at the moment, or should I say, so far, Cacao Insights was about like doing this empirical exploration, and collecting results of experiments. But the vision behind it is to actually be able to share the knowledge and go deeper than what we can actually reach by being so subjective. There is this part of Cacao Insights. We want to make it kind of an entity, a platform where we can actually educate people about what cacao truly is. And there is this other part of the project where we can be actually involved into the research, trying also to somehow getting to, I mean, I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the word, but like standardize it so we can give a little bit more credit to what it is, and it can have a seat at the table where all the research is conducted. And then slowly, step by step, it can actually grow into something that everybody can have access to, because I believe that if more people have access to this kind of cacao, then it means less harm and less commodity quality cacao, less of a bulk sized market going forward somehow, and more blessings out there. So this is what we want to work towards.
That's an amazing mission and goal and passion. And I think the world really needs it right now.
I think too.
Yeah. I know I sidetracked you a little bit as you were going through the process of profiling and what affects that. I think we were just past fermentation. We wanted to dive back into that.
Well, let me get back to it. Um, like, where were we? Because we were talking about like giving a little bit of a definition, or like
Yes.
some kind of language that would be useful for everybody to a little bit about profiling, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, what I said about like trying to gather as much information on the environment, on the terroir, on the making processes. And then after that, the other kind of information you can get is by trying it for yourself and experimenting with it. So what I always recommend is what you actually just did a couple of years ago, where when you ordered a whole bunch of different cacaos and try and had your own experience with those, because for me that's the way you really get to understand the complexity and the beauty of this food, actually. And what it does is that it opens your mind in a way that you start to consider food and drinks and relationships on a global scale, not only cacao, in the same way, like if you think about how something was nurtured from the beginning and how it end up when you have a chance to consume it, if it's a food, or when you have the chance to share a relationship with a person. Well, it's very important to know where this person comes from, or where this food comes from, to understand what kind of impact it can have on you. So yeah, that's the last part of the profiling part, is really about experimenting. And and if I come back to cacao, like trying to put words or images or metaphors, whatever comes to your mind when you're actually tasting it and experimenting it. So from for us, it starts right out of the packaging, right? So you have this cacao, it comes in different shapes. Sometimes it's a really big block, like sometimes it's chunky flakes, sometimes it's going to be small discs. And the first thing you can do is to connect with this cacao by, like, I don't know, just eating a piece, smelling it, looking at the texture, how it crystallized. Is there lots of cacao butter? Is it like whitish, or is it like a deep brown, you know? And then when you're familiar with it on in this shape, then you can turn it into a drink, and again experiment with the density of your drink, because I know I like it to be somehow a little bit watery, and I know people who don't like it, and who would go for this very thick cacao, and I think it's also a beautiful thing to experiment with, because obviously it's going to take you somewhere else because of the mouth feel and the dose, obviously. And so when you taste it before you are engulfed in the effects, it's really interesting to just notice the kind of aromas that are presenting to you. And the thing that is good when you are trying to taste anything is that there is no wrong answer, So if you taste the cacao and you feel notes of, I don't know, orange, and you're with a friend, and she would say, like, well, I taste like pear or mango, or I taste like something completely out of the what should I say? Like sometimes there is this kind of rubbery feeling, sometimes you have this rubber aroma. There is no wrong answer. Whatever you feel, it's correct because you are talking about aromas the way that you actually implemented those thanks to your experience. So my taste of a certain aroma, my taste of strawberry will be different from yours. So it's really a fun thing to do, an interesting thing to normalize it so that you became accustomed to the fact of being aware of what you drink and what you eat, and you will see if you drink a special kind of cacao on the regular, you will be able to feel differences from one batch to another, one harvest to another, one year to another, and it makes also your relationship uh, more deeper, because it evolves, and sometimes you're expecting to get back to the original taste, the one that you love at the very beginning, and then you receive your new order and it's not the same. It's slightly changed, and you're a little bit disappointed because of your expectations. But then a few weeks later, you got used to it, and you find new ways to appreciate it. I think it just makes the whole thing more beautiful. So, so yeah, I think it covers the whole approach of how you or anybody could profile cacao on its own.
Yeah. I, I'm like taking, and I have like so many questions now as well.
Yeah,
I'm curious about, okay, I'll start here. I'm curious about, so I'm bringing, of course, the word sommelier. So I'm thinking about wine tasting, and wine tasting, you like swirl the cup, and then you bring it into your mouth and you aerate it, and you like swish it all around to really get the full
yeah.
palate. Are there any techniques that help, like in wine tasting, that one could apply to cacao tasting that would enhance the effect of the flavor in our mouths?
Well, this is something that we are looking at in the future to actually train with a properly trained sommelier, wine sommelier, so that he can actually share with us these kind of techniques, and we can explore together what is appropriate with cacao. But so at the moment, we didn't go through this training with the sommelier. But what we did is we were trained as chocolate tasters.
Mm-hmm.
So we went through this program with the International Institute of Chocolate and Cacao Tasting, which is based in London. And so we learned everything we know about aromas and tasting techniques and sensory tasting thanks to their programs. So there are other programs out there that are like training for the same stuff, but we chose this one, and it was like a beautiful experience, and it really helped us going into our project to really feel like relevant into making this kind of profiles. And so obviously with them we didn't try any cacao drink because it's not yet a thing, not yet. But we went through chocolate tastings, and so we tried ourselves to adapt this technique to the drinks. And so basically, uh, the approach they have and we have is the sensory tasting. So, as I said, like grabbing the stuff, touching it, smelling it. There's even this thing in chocolate that you can hear it when you snap, and there is this specific noise that will give you a specific information on how good or bad the tempering of a chocolate bar went. Well, in the cacao drink, I'm not sure it applies, but like grabbing it, just feeling it, how it looks, how it's been transformed. First thing you would do is like smell it and see what kind of aromas you can already have from there. There is this important distinction to make between the different tastes and different aromas. So with taste, I mean like salty, sweet, sour, um, umami, and I'm forgetting one, but there is a fifth one. And so these tastes, you are feeling those on your tongue. So your tongue is responsible for giving you the information on whether something is salty or sweet or sour. The aromas, so the fact that you will say, oh, this cacao has like it tastes like strawberry, or it tastes like a really intense chocolate. This is your nose that is responsible for giving you this information. So hence why when you have a cold or a flu, you are unable to actually taste anything. Basically, it's because your nose cannot give you this information. Starting from here, smelling your into your cup and see what comes up, and then slowly having a first sip and see what the first note you can actually pinpoint is. And a good practice would be to write it down. So when it's wrote down, you can go to the other note. And so you go from one note to the other. So some people will find 15 different notes. Some people will find 3 different notes, and it's totally fine, you know? It's once again, there are no wrong answers. You will see when doing that, because cacao is solid and it's a suspension, you know, like the compounds of the cacao beans are actually uh, suspended in your drink. You access different aromas at the beginning of your cup than at the end of your cup, because obviously there is this I lost the English word for that, but there is this solid what
is it in French? Maybe.
un dépôt.
I don't know that one.
No, I'm
I
not sure
speak
you
a
will
little
get
bit
it.
of French.
No, I mean, some of your cacao is uh, lying down at
Is it
the
like
end
the
of your cup, you know.
sediment?
Sediment, thank you.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So obviously there is this concentration of aromas in the sediment. So going through your cups, you will have access to different kind of aromas because of that as well, you know. So going through this, you are able to find different kind of notes, and if they remind you of something that is closer to coffee, or something that is closer to a fruit or a jam or a juice, or something that is closer to something that is nutty or cereal or toasted bread, you are able to put it in the box, and basically it's just an exploration from there. So this is how you would profile a cacao on your own, just trying to feel what is there, and yeah, compare it with whoever you are sharing with, and see how far or how close you are. This is the game.
And thank you for all those tips. And I know they're very, very, very beneficial to our listeners as well who want to start playing
Welcome.
around with that. A while back when I was doing the cacao brand spotlights, part of the aspect that I brought in was a friend of mine did one of those chocolate tasting trainings, and we hopped on a few calls together as a little, like, sitting with our cups and like, what do we taste and what do we
Yeah.
feel? And it's interesting. Some are very clear and bold, and some it's really hard to kind of discern. At least it was for me at that time. I I want to switch beats a little bit, and I'm curious about, because you and your partner were avid chocolate lovers, and how you now bridge chocolate and the world of cacao or ceremonial cacao. Do you still eat chocolate? Like, do you still enjoy chocolate in that sense, or is that something that you've kind of now evolved in or transitioned into more the world of ceremonial cacao, and where you stand in between those two?
Well, I was going to say, I think we stand like perfectly in between. I think we definitely reduced our chocolate consumption since we discovered the cacao, but we are still very much into it, because the angle from which craft chocolate makers, and so I'm talking about chocolate makers that are respecting the bean to bar philosophy, the angle from which they are approaching uh, the transformation of cacao is really, really interesting, and is really intricate. And we personally know some makers that don't necessarily have like an affinity with cacao or ceremonial cacao, but that can talk about cacao in the way that makes us feel like someone who has a strong affinity with ceremonial cacao would talk about. We talk about different stuff with people who are into the craft chocolate market than with people who are in the ceremonial cacao uh, horizon or niche. But one thing that we would love to is to be able to bridge this gap, because we do feel that there is a gap that exists now between those two entities, and it I mean it exists for a reason, but all the reasons that are mentioned are not always relevant, and I'm pretty sure that we can find ways to actually link both of these words and to make the most out of it, because the way people from the craft chocolate market are looking at cacao, it's definitely, it has nothing to do compared to the industrial chocolate market. They're not seeing it as a commodity or as something that can be buy in bulk size and without caring for the people who work at the origin. They are definitely into trying to uh, bring more awareness and engage their consumers into what cacao is at the origin. The thing is, they are doing it very differently from people who are trying to share ceremonial cacao. And so I think that's what I mean when I say we sit in between those words, is because we have affinity with both, and we can see the positive impact that craft chocolate can have and the positive impact that ceremonial cacao can have. And I think that the two can be merged and coexist in a very harmonious way. And it just needs to be done, basically. So this is actually what we are working on at the moment with Cacao Insights. We are restructuring the project so that we can give, I already mentioned that a little earlier, but we can give like a proper spot to ceremonial cacao so that it can be somehow recognized. And if it's recognized on a broader scale, then we can make it like something just accessible. Because at the moment, I don't know how you feel about that, and I would be very curious to know about it. But to me, it is still kind of enclosed in a niche where you can access this. You can access it if it's somehow close to your lifestyle, or if you have like a spiritual engagement. What I experienced when I was sharing cacao through the cacao bars or through different kind of events is that when I would introduce this cacao as ceremonial cacao, for some people it wouldn't change a thing, and for some people the only fact that I would designate it by calling it ceremonial would somehow uh, uh, like interfere with their experience, because they would just lend a meaning to the word that would put this kind of cacao in a certain sphere that is not accessible. I see this is a conversation that is often recurring on social medias and also between different ceremonial cacao actors. Like, what about the designation? Is it respectful enough? Is it inclusive enough? Is it still relevant? And this is a conversation that I like to have, because I do feel that if we want to make it something that is like accessible and acknowledgeable, we have to have this conversation to make it somehow inclusive for everybody. So I'm curious to know what would be your take on that. Like, how do you feel about uh, the the designation in itself and how it is perceived on a more global scale?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think it is, yeah, it is very niche. I think that people who I know that work with ceremonial cacao are engaged more for the spiritual aspect as well. I know a few people who have gotten into ceremonial cacao from the nutrient aspect of just wanting to live a healthier lifestyle, and also aren't fully committed to that spiritual aspect, but use it more for health benefits. And in terms of a global scale, it is, I know that language is so powerful, and when we start to attribute things that people compartmentalize as to like, that is not who I am, that's not my identity, it can just shut down all of it. So
Yeah.
I grapple a lot with the aspect of what people actually consider ceremonial. Like, my definition of ceremonial is that the farm that it came from, the people planted it with intention, or it's been there for generations. They bless the trees, they're saging the trees, they're singing to the trees. And when they harvest it, there's love and gratitude and giving back to the land and their offerings to the land. And then when they prepare the cacao, it's all about infusing prayer, infusing love into the medicine of the person who is going to drink it. And it's really curated for healing and ceremony with self or in community. From the trainings that I've done, because I've done a few cacao facilitator trainings, and those mostly related to the Mayan lineages, and some like really, very strict about their path, which of course as you should be. But like, even only women touch the cacao from a certain part of it.
Yeah.
And as soon as it's harvested, it's only women that are touching it, because the cacao is a feminine energy, and no metal touches it. It's only with stone and fire, and infusing the more feminine energies until the end, when you prepare it with the molinillo, which is the masculine energy, bringing that in. And honoring those traditions where it's not even in a metal vessel, it's in a ceramic vessel from the earth. And for me, I resonate a lot with that. I resonate a lot with the respect and understanding of the traditional medicine, of how it was used for ceremony, of honoring those aspects of how we actually prepare the cacao and everything around that. So ceremonial cacao for me is that.
Yeah.
The most minimal amount of processing, if any. It like hand peeled, stone ground on a metate, and just every step is a meditation, is a blessing, as these women with like crazy ass muscles infuse the prayer and love into this paste that we're about to drink. And then there's the other branch where I've been thinking about it too, is like, okay, it's not ceremonial cacao, but it is still really potent medicine. I came up with a term the other day. I was like, all right, so there's ceremonial cacao, there's like, I think it was ethically sourced cacao, and then I was like, then there's, I don't know, another tier to it. And for me, there were really 3 tiers about pure ceremonial cacao. Then there's this other, like, maybe tier below. I don't want to put it into a hierarchy, but the next slot over is, it's created with reverence. It's maybe not done with the traditional sacred practices around the tree, but the farmers love the land. They're tending to the fruit. They're happy. The people who process the cacao love it. They enjoy life. They're passing along. They know that it's beneficial. And maybe there's more processing involved. Maybe we are moving more to the modern age of having a winnower and using a melanger or a stone grinder. And then there's the aspect of just like, this is the pure, nice bean to bar craft chocolate. So those are the 3 tiers, and how it impacts globally. I think that I had to have to sit with that one. I have to sit in meditation with a cup of cacao and ask her, and then I'll get back to you on that answer.
Yes, please.
Where it's like some companies that say they are ceremonial cacao, and then they grind it a lot and they process it. And the thing that I didn't even like think about with the heat friction, I don't know that I feel comfortable calling that ceremonial cacao, but I think it is really high potent high vibrational energy. So I feel like there's even more of a discernment that needs to happen within the ceremonial cacao
Yeah, right.
aspect.
There are lots of distinctions because there are different ways to achieve different things, but it seems like most of those people who are working into this ceremonial cacao niche, they are doing it for the same purpose, you know. They're just doing it differently because of their context, because of I don't know, maybe how they were trained, because of the possibilities, maybe it's financial, maybe it's something else. And it just seems to me, actually, it seems necessary at some point to sort of have a common language that we can all talk to and know that we can refer to, and so it makes more sense to a broader audience, and we can actually, you know, create this momentum of putting this kind of like beautiful cacao in the forefront, you know, because as I said, and like I'm not a brand. This would not be like a commercial strategy. It would only be for the sake of sharing this beautiful plant and this beautiful drink and what it has to offer, because it offers so much. I think that it would be one way. It's not the only way, but having this kind of agreement and discussions and trying to that's what I had in mind when I said standardize. It would not be like just say, okay, ceremonial cacao has to be this, and that cannot be anything else. It would just be, okay, what are we referring to when we are mentioning ceremonial cacao? What are we referring to when we are mentioning a cacao drink? Is it traditional? Is it not? Like, can we have some common language that we can use and that can make sense to people that are new to this kind of approach? And can it help the bigger purpose? This is the whole question for me. A good comparison points would be what the specialty coffee uh, niche or market now, because it's a proper market, managed to do over the years. I read that the term specialty coffee was first used in 1974, I guess. So like 50 years ago. And look at it now. It's become something that you can definitely differentiate from bulk coffee or commodity coffee. And I mean, especially in the US, like coffee shops using specialty coffee, it's become like a thing, and people are into specialty coffee, and they're cutting their conception of bulk coffee for this coffee that has been like prepared with reverence, as you said, and that you know that is ethically sourced and produced, and that everybody along the way is getting the care that it deserves. So I'm not saying let's make the exact same thing and call cacao in a certain way and everything is going to be all right. But if you look a little bit closer at their approach and how they standardize the thing, I think it's a really smart thing to do. And so I'm ready to have this conversation with anybody who wants to have it. I feel like from the place that I am in at the moment, I would love to support this kind of project and be an actor of that, because I think it would serve a beautiful purpose.
I love that. I'm already thinking like it'd be so fun to have all of like the cacao brands together and we just like create our own industry standards together.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
there's like a
Like, why
big
not?
cacao con. Everybody comes. We fly in from
Yeah,
all over
right.
the world. That'd be so fun.
Yeah, and like you and we could start to. I mean, you can only imagine what could happen, but I mean, there are coffee shops, and can you imagine going to your like favorite coffee shop and being able to have your favorite cacao on the menu, and the barista is here and he's trained and he knows what he's talking
Yeah.
about, and he can actually introduce you to, okay, this is not your regular hot chocolate drink. this is not cacao powder. This is actually pure cacao, and it's been made this way, and it will give you this kind of health benefits, and it's gonna have an effect that is similar to coffee but different. You can try for yourself. It's like someone who can just regularly introduce it to you, whether you know about it or never heard of it. It would be just beautiful. And maybe if you push it a little bit forward, you can have cacao shops at some point, but let's see about that. But, make it more of I don't know, I can envision it as it becoming something of more of a that you can have access on the regular, and that can actually support you in your daily life, and maybe not only for very very like precise moment in time when you decide to, for instance, have a ceremony, or if you're on this trip in Central or South America and have this opportunity to access a farm or somewhere where cacao is being served. This would it wouldn't harm none of these experiences, but it would add to your daily life, or to your regular consumption of whatever beverage you like to connect to, whether it's tea or coffee or anything else. So yeah, that's that's part of my vision, at least. So that's what I want to work for.
That would be amazing. I listened to a YouTube video recently of somebody that I follow, and he said if you look out like at the New York skyline, you're looking at a caffeinated nation. Like this is what caffeine built. And I was like, ooh.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, what would our world look like if we were actually fueled on cacao and maybe
Wow.
some caffeine too? That'd be great. But like if
There
we
is some
just
in
even
cacao,
that,
so
what?
there is
Sorry.
some caffeine in cacao, so
Yeah. Yeah. For me, that was such a big impact because thinking about the New York, I live in New York, from New York, and like thinking about the New York skyline, and then thinking about, okay, that's what coffee did. All right,
uh-huh.
what would
Yeah,
it
right.
look like if we had different plants? Like cacao was
Yes,
actually stimulating. It would look so different. It
definitely,
would be so
definitely.
different.
And I mean, I've been through this. I mean, I haven't take the time to actually imagine that, like a proper answer, like what would it look like. But I've been through this question. This is what caffeine did. What would theobromine do? It's actually a beautiful question, because I think it could be heard as a joke, to say, yeah, like caffeine built it. But actually, when you look at it like very closely, and you see the amount of coffee that is consumed, and the place that is given to it in our daily lives, it's insane, like from like apparently from the earliest times in history, the human race has always been drawn to any kind of uh, physiological effective substances. So whether it's plant medicines, or it's mushrooms, or it's stimulants, whatever. And for some reason, it seems that coffee made its way a little bit wider than the others. And so we can definitely ask ourselves the question, what would be different if coffee wasn't here, and if it was replaced with another plant that would like sustain a different kind of energy that is more gentle and more of a sentiment of a connection than accomplishment. You would see the world quite differently, I guess. I think I will take some time to picture it, and would love to share it with you at some point, like how
Yeah,
how different it would be.
I would love to hear that. Hmm. There is a question that I love to ask people, and it is, what do you feel that is cacao's mission at this time?
At this time, like, you mean like right now?
Yeah, because as we're looking at, this is a new evolution of cacao. The traditions that are being established now haven't really existed before because there weren't really cacao ceremonies, but now
Yeah.
it's spreading throughout the world. It's leaving the jungle. It's finding new roots in different countries, and so many people are having more access to this medicine. And
Yeah.
I believe that, all plants are sentient. They have their own life force. They have their own agenda. They've been
Yes,
here way longer than we have.
for
And I'm,
sure.
yeah, and I'm just curious, like if you have a feeling or a sentiment around what the mission of cacao is.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's pretty clear to me. It's creating connections. For me, it's creating connections. That's as simple as it may sound, but it's just the way it feels when you have access to this kind of cacao, and also on a bigger scale when we are looking at what's happening, just what you described, that it is now living out the jungle. It is creating connections between people in a different way and in a more heartfelt way, I guess. And we definitely need that. So uh, I just want to accompany it in a way. And I'm really glad to see initiatives such as yours or any other that are trying to, support these kind of connections happening. It's just beautiful. So yeah, that would be my answer.
I love that. Yeah, definitely connections. She is a master weaver.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's on a personal scale. You can, I mean, you would definitely connect on a deeper level with yourself if you're listening to what happens when you have access to this kind of cacao. I experienced a deeper connection with my partner, a deeper connection with my mother, with my friends, and also with people that I've never met before, It's just, and now I can see the scale that is growing bigger for me, but it doesn't have to. But it just feels this way. So I just, I'm glad.
And I'm curious if there's anything else that, as we like, I feel like we wrap up this conversation, because I'm mindful of your time and you've been so generous during this conversation too,
It's a
with your
pleasure.
time. If there's anything that you feel that you wish people really knew about cacao, or any last messages that you would love to share with our listeners today.
Anything they knew about cacao. Mm, that's a good one. Already talked about complexity a lot. And although like complexity doesn't mean it has to be like difficult, right? Like it's complex, but it can also be simple. It's just a matter of how we approach it. What I would love to emphasize on is taking the time to explore between the all the diversity that cacao has to offer, because to me it makes us more aware of our own diversity, basically. And so if we are able to go through all these things that we go through in our lives, it's because we have different point of views, different perspectives, different insights, and we are able to question things on a more global way. I think there is this kind of parallel that I like to make with cacao, that to have access to it properly, you may want to have access to its different sides, different aspects, different facets of the prism. And this is something that I would really encourage anybody that is listening to go out and try different cacaos and see how they respond, how they react, how they feel with all this diversity available, and see what it would spark in them, really.
Thank you. Thank you for all of your shares and all of your wisdom. On this podcast, I started a little tradition to weave our guests together. And I always ask my guests to share a blessing for the next guest.
All
So
right.
I have a blessing for you from my previous guest.
Nice.
And she says for you,
The blessing I would like to share is thank you for being you. Thank you for following your heart. Thank you for all of the experiences in your life that has led you to this moment. Thank you for your beauty, for your radiance, for your light. Thank you for all of the people that you are helping in your life, and everyone that has had the privileged to cross paths with you physically or virtually in this life are very blessed. You are a beautiful soul with so much fun in your heart, so much lightness and softness in your eyes. And I too look forward to connecting with you. And I know that I will connect with you soon. And again, just thank you for being you. You are an amazing individual, and we are so blessed to have you here on planet Earth with us at this time in this space.
So that is the blessing, and I will be happy to send that to you too, and send the connection so that we can continue to weave our cacao
For sure.
magic all over
Yes,
the world.
please do. That's deep. That's thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for enabling that.
yeah, a very beautiful blessing, just showering it all the way to France. And my ask of you is if you have a blessing for our next guest as well that I will
Yeah.
pass along.
All right. Yeah. Should I just say it now,
Yeah.
or should I just come up with it later?
Whatever you feel called to. The previous guest just kind of tuned in and shared it here, but if you would prefer to write something and I can share that too, whatever you feel resonates for you.
Yeah. I feel comfortable. I really like I like writing, and I feel like it's gonna come from the right place if I just take the time to write it down and then send it to you afterwards.
That sounds amazing. And
All right.
I honor and respect the wisdom of you listening to yourself and your sovereignty.
All good.
So thank you so much, Matt, Mathieu,
Yes.
for your time here. And it was
Well,
a
thank you
pleasure
for the
having you.
invitation.
Yeah.
Thank you for the invitation. Really, it's an honor, kind of. As I told you, it's my first podcast, and I am grateful to have the opportunity to have such a window and to be able to talk about cacao and talk about a little bit more than cacao and also be a part of what you are creating. It's really it's a chance, and I really want to thank you for what you're doing. Like it's a beautiful thing, and I feel like we are both on a mission towards the same goal somehow. And I guess it's the same with all the other guests that you are going or that you already had on the podcast. And I look forward to hearing them and see where you take it. We need that, and I'm really grateful that you are able to put that out in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Receive that. Thank you. It's for me, it's just a joy. I get to meet awesome people doing amazing things and talk about cacao and chocolate.
Yeah, right.
The best.
That's a pretty good sign. If it's just a joy, then
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. And I would love to close the space as we started. I love to bring one hand to my heart, one hand to my belly. Taking a deep breath in as we begin to center ourselves again from the journey that we went on, this whole conversation, allowing all of the information to begin to integrate, the wisdom that was stimulated, that it seed and take roots and fertile soils in our minds and our hearts, and that whatever inspiration grows from those seeds, we act upon with grace, with love, with compassion, to reach out and interconnect and allow ourselves to leave this or make this world better, more love-filled, more simple, more natural, whatever word is that your superpower is, infuse it in here. And just to create the world that we really can thrive in together, where humans and nature thrive together. And bringing our awareness down to the heart of the earth, this planet that we are floating on in space, bringing ourselves back down to the locality of the here and now, giving thanks to our presence. We give thanks to the heart of the earth. Bringing our awareness up above, we give thanks to the heart of the sky, the sun, the moon, the stars, the planetary wisdom. Bringing our awareness to the heart of the waters, we give thanks to the heart of the water. And bringing our awareness to the heart of the fire, we give thanks to the heart of the fire. Bringing our awareness to the light within, to the center, we give thanks to the heart of all, the heart of all beings, to the heart of the ether, to the heart of the void, to the wisdom within. And bringing our awareness to the heart of Mama Cacao, we give thanks to the heart of Cacao. Thank you for this plant medicine that has guided us to this conversation today, that has woven our paths together in this beautiful way. And may the connections that come from this blossom and flourish. And so it is. And I love to end it with, it is done, it is done, it is done, and it is fun, it is fun, it is fun. Oh. Thank you so much for tuning into today's conversation. It is such an honor to share this journey with you and share these conversations with you. I hope that Mathieu's journey and insights stimulated some more insights in your own life with cacao. If you would like to connect with Mathieu and Cacao Insights, you can check out their Instagram, follow them on Instagram at Cacao Insights, or check out their website at cacaoinsights.com. I'll leave the information in the description so you can check out their links there. And may these conversations continue to nourish your roots. May cacao continue to awaken your heart so that you can embody your magic, because you are pure magic. Until next time.